Welcome back to another salvage story where we give you an in-depth look into the auto salvage industry and let you know in the end how much money we made or lost on each car. We aren't messing around with some small fry this time. We are in the big baller division. The only requirement being a purchase price of more than $30,000. Right now, it has two Porsches in it as the only contenders, but this Audi has a fighting chance given that it is equipped with the extremely desirable and expensive V10. It's time to dive into this R8 and see if it can give those pesky Porsches a run for their money. For those that have undoubtedly commented already, yes, I am aware that these components are aluminum. No, I don't care that it scraps for 3 cents more from what I've thrown in the steel dumpster. Now that we have all this out of the way, we can gain access to the battery, make sure that all of these grounds are put back on roughly well enough. Looks like the fire department actually cut this cable. I already pulled off the sleeving. That way we can hook power to here and to here, and that way we can get this thing powered up, because it has not been started since the auction for two reasons. Number one, we don't have a key for it. So the plan is that I'm going to head over to Audi of Annapolis now that I've confirmed that there's nothing catastrophic in the front end that will keep this thing from powering up. We'll get a key made for it, and then we need to fix the pyro fuse, which is the second issue. Very easy to do on these cars, so I'm gonna get a little bit more out of the way. We'll get the key for this thing, and then we should be able to fire it up in here and run. But look at the amount of damage. If you can see all the way down there, it actually pulled the bolts, it just sheared them, which shows you how much impact this thing had at the front end. And this is the side that has more damage to it. And look at that, it just has sheared bolts everywhere. Upper arms, it completely just sheared those out. Lower arms, I mean, it just completely destroyed the suspension on this car. Whatever they hit pretty darn hard. Let's go ahead, put some power to this. Looks like it powered up.
Hey, I found him.
You found who?
The owner of the car.
Really?
Yeah. So I took a picture of the back end of the car and I posted on the Audi enthusiast group on Facebook, and his friend actually got on and was like, yeah, that's my buddy's car, it got wrecked. So the story on the car is he showed up at his buddy's shop. There was a guy there, portrayed as a pretty decent dude, had a real nice Ducati, asked if he could drive the car. The guy said yes, and he wrecked it at less than a mile down the street. They walked from the shop to the accident scene where he wrecked the car, T-boned the car, and then went off the road into a gate.
No way. So somebody else wrecked the dude's car?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's awful.
Yeah. The good news, he's going to send us a key.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, that's one less step that we have to worry about. Basically, we just need to wait a day or two to get the key here. He's gonna mail it. Okay, so there we go. Key situation solved. We're not gonna have to go over to Audi. That is what we have been waiting for. This is a way fancy key case, but hopefully we'll do the trick. In the meantime, we actually did a couple things at the front here. I looped the coolant hose at the front and then capped off the excess one. We should be able to go ahead and fill this coolant system. We're not going to leave this thing running for long, but that way there will be coolant circulating in the system. I went ahead and got under here and exposed the pyro fuse also. This actually, you can see, this is the airbag part of it that connects to the system. It actually blew this out, which is, you know, what normally happens with steering wheel airbags and so on. But what we need to do is just connect the two sides here. We'll remove the fuse and just bypass it so that way we can start the car.
successfully bypassed. Now this will allow us to start the car. The airbag system, you know, won't work properly to shut the car off if this thing was involved in another accident, but I don't think we have to worry about that. This thing is really not happy. I don't know what that noise is over there. There we go. Whew, this thing is dirty. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead, top this thing off with coolant, and then we'll see if she fires. We got thing. Thumbs up.
That's good.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
This thing, I think, definitely has an aftermarket exhaust. Well, I really wasn't expecting it to fire up quite that quickly, but it sounds completely fine. The only thing I forgot to do, I'll put power to it again. I'm gonna see if we can get this rear wing to go down. It might be up and not movable because of the accident, but I'm hoping it was up and it just didn't go down because that was like the last setting it was on. So I do need to see if I can get that to work. But other than that, I'm gonna get it sprayed off, get it cleaned up, get it checked in, then it's gonna be time to dismantle this thing. A very big part of this R8 salvage story is going to be the dead inventory number. There are a lot of parts on this car that just take a while to sell. The carbon fiber trim pieces are not one of them. Extremely desirable for the engine compartment. This car is going to get posted today on the Leasey Parts Instagram. So by the time this video comes out, we're going to have a chance to sell some of these parts. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the carbon trim piece is gone by the end of this video. Oh, there we go. Good. We're free.
Now we're free.
So I guess whenever somebody got in here to do the exhaust, they managed to break that mount and they tried to, you know, spaceman tape it back together. If you find yourself asking, is that really how you have to take the mirrors off on this car? The answer is, unfortunately, yes. One thing that I find absolutely fascinating about these cars is the construction of the quarter panels, how they have this inner layer here where there are bolt holes that actually attach and mount. This is way, way more complex construction than something like a bolt-on quarter panel from a Corvette, for example, which you see a lot of on the channel, which are just one layer, they're perimeter bolted, they do the job, but this is just a very, very different design. I think it's really cool to look at. A good productive day to get all of the body panels off of the car. There may be a few other little odds and ends, brackets that we'll go ahead and take off. The passenger side here is already disassembled as well, and we are amassing quite the parts pile already. I did take the internals out of the passenger door since it has damage on it, so we will be selling those. The side window, the driver door though will be sold complete, because a lot of body shops, when you have to replace a door, for example, you're going to need most of the components inside of it most of the time. As mentioned, I did take the passenger door off the car for no other reason than throwing it in the dumpster. Boom.
Tubi style, made in Italy. Okay.
It almost looks like it's supposed to be like serial numbered. Only competition, so I guess this is, supposed to be some off-road style exhaust. I think one way or another, this is a nice bonus that we weren't expecting. I haven't done all my research, but I don't think that a stock exhaust is really wanted or desirable. So having an aftermarket unit that should probably sell pretty quickly, really no matter what it's worth, again, big bonus. We'll find out here in a little bit, though, how big a bonus. It was coming off anyway because the rear section on this car is going to get cut off. I figured, why not now? And I did take this car apart in a very specific order. It still has oil in it, it still has coolant in it, and everything electrical is still hooked up. So I think it's only fitting we hear this thing run one last time with absolutely no mufflers on it. Yeah, that's considerably louder, so enough horsing around. It's time to get this thing apart.
Straight. Stop there. stop there.
So you need to shift to the...
Yeah, hit him a little bit, yeah.
Man, I was really confident with this one that I got it all, and I missed one hose.
Got it.
Maybe like the headers.
Yeah, come back.
Not so bad.
I didn't get a chance to tell you this on camera, but this whole rear cut, dead inventory off the jump.
We know it sells, it just takes 4 years.
Get it back up a little bit. Ooh, that shot right up. That's like another 4.
It's always a huge sigh of relief when you get a good, strong leak down like this. We know that the motor is good now, and that is just in the nick of time because we are wrapping this thing up, and Fernando is getting started in the photo department. Done deal. That is a wrap, both literally and figuratively. What do you think about the R8? Were you impressed?
So, yes and no. I'm impressed with the amount of parts that it made, but at the same time, GT3 RS is still bigger. That's still on the top. That definitely kicked my ass.
And I have to imagine that that is going to be a continuing theme, is the direct comparison to the top dog GT3 RS, because Alex is going to get these listed, and then we are going to do the parts breakdown, and you know who we're bringing in to help with that. Carrington is joining us for the breakdown, and this one should be pretty darn interesting.
I'm just here to audit. I haven't seen any of this yet. Just making sure everything's on the up and up, no cheating.
We have it organized from most expensive on down. The big stuff first, the motor on this car. This is not the most expensive motor that we've had come through the shop, but this is certainly up there, almost $24,000 for this specific motor, which is a pretty reasonable number in the market value. There are some more expensive, but the mileage on this car was pretty good, right in the middle, not super low, not super high. I think that's a pretty reasonable starting point.
I saw some of them going as high as 30. I guess those were the really low mileage ones.
Yeah, and I do think that the second gen motors are worth a little bit more. This is still a first gen, even though they're very, very similar.
That comes into play even more on the next part right there.
Correct. The transmission from this car, you guys have heard us complain about the turbo R8 that we have, the supercar, and it has one of these R-tronic transmissions. And our car is fully built, but it shifts super slow. That's kind of the hold up with these, is that they are a manual transmission that is shifted hydraulically by a computer. The price is still there, the demand is still there. Because there's a lot of these cars on the road, a large number of the Gen 1s came with this, only the 14s and 15s came with the newer S-tronic DCT before the Gen 2s. And then on down, you're gonna get some pieces like the rear bumper. The rear bumper on this, the V10, is slightly different than the V8. I believe the tips and then the side grills are different.
It's a nice looking bumper.
So, you know, again, these are kind of proven market value wise. There's really not
anything to talk about with them. It's just going to be the timing of how long it takes to sell, which is what we're going to get into a little bit later with the dead inventory.
That's the story of this car in its entirety.
The exhaust, again, very nice aftermarket. We have this priced at $3,300. These sell for more than $4,000. Brand new. You got to hear the sound clip of it. It sounds great. It's good quality. No reason I think that we won't be able to get that for it. We do have the bare chassis. I ended up not cutting it. We kept it as a complete piece like you've seen us do with some of the higher end cars. And the reason for that is that somebody may need a rocker cut, or want it cut in a specific way. These cars do get fixed pretty often. YouTubers do them pretty regularly. You've seen it recently. Goon Squad did a Gen 2. Local to us right up here in Pennsylvania, Ed Gasket actually did a gated, I believe it was a V8 car. But they do get fixed regularly, so people are in need of these parts. I am very shocked that these carbon pieces have not sold yet, but we do still have them. As I told you earlier in the video, it's been about a week that they've been listed, and we're asking a pretty penny for them. Again, this is kind of market value. It's all established what these normally sell for, so they'll sell at some point. The seats, the carbon fiber door sills, just market value. There's really not a lot to talk about kind of from this point forward as far as just differentiation between what is else out there on the market. These are all kind of your standard pricing, and it's just waiting for it to sell. And you start to get to some of the nitty gritty, the suspension corners, $1,000 a suspension corner. These are complete suspensions, uppers, lowers, spindles. So there's a lot there, but very expensive suspension corners.
We should have just took them to TX2K. We could have sold all of them there.
The one unfortunate casualty of this car is the carbon side blade on the passenger side had a little bit of damage. Really nothing too significant, but you can see just little scuffs in the carbon. Otherwise, we'd be selling these as a pair because the V10s are a little bit wider. But individually, they will sell for people that, have unfortunate accidents. The mirror caps, same story. One of the caps themselves had a little bit of damage. These are very desirable also, but because there's damage, we had to ask a little bit less at $650 than normally we would for the carbon mirror.
Is that the one I saw you drop when you removed it, or?
Did not drop it. There's video proof. You guys know better. Now we get into some of the modules. The gauge cluster, very hefty, $600.
Those modules, the ones we're gonna throw away 6 years from now?
You can tell that Carrington he's a little jaded on this one, because the last car that we did, granted it was a V8, the V8s are a little bit less desirable, but he's not joking that we still have parts for five years later.
A lot of parts, not 2 parts, like you can probably look it up, probably like 30, 40 parts. It's a lot.
Slow moving indeed. So, but you can see the calipers here. Again, lots of parts value in some of these run-of-the-mill parts like suspension, struts, again, brakes, the steering wheel itself, the flat-bottom steering wheel, $400. It's a pretty expensive steering wheel for an OEM steering wheel. That's how you get to the grand total of $82,697 in parts with 150 parts listed. That is a huge number.
Massive. I feel bad for Eric. I feel bad for Fernando. I feel bad for everybody that had a hand in this car. Fortunately, I actually didn't do anything on this car. I was working on Corvettes and Porsches all the past 2 weeks.
He's just here to audit.
Yes.
The $82,697. We're going to take off the purchase price for the car right off the bat, $30,185, which is why we are in the big baller division. That brings us down to $52,512. Shipping from Chicago, very reasonable, $450. And then labor. Again, there's a lot that goes into this. I dismantled the car. Took me a couple days. Really nothing too crazy, but time consuming. It went smoothly, luckily. Fernando just had to photo all those parts. Alex just had to list all those parts. And Eric is still yet to ship all these parts over the next several years. So we have $1,250, which is the high side of the labor here. We're still just above 50,000.
Are you sure we don't need to go higher on that? Because if we're talking about 4 years from now, the labor market's going to be higher. Inflation, there's stuff we have to take into account on R8 that we normally don't. So we might need to bump that up a little bit.
Went ahead and subtracted another $250. Brings it to a $1,500 total. Shipping expense is another high one here. A lot of the components that we just highlighted are big, expensive freight items. So we have $5,000 in shipping expense. Selling fees is a standard 10% of the parts value listed. So we'll be subtracting $8,297. And now for the big one, I have it written down on here. I'm gonna let Carrington do the honors though, because he's been waiting for this moment for several weeks now.
$16,539. We're gonna leave out the 40 cents because I think it's irrelevant in this. 20 grand.
That is still a really, really solid number. This is the first time that we've actually put the total remaining profit out there. Neither him or I knew what it was going to be.
Theoretical net margin is the proper salvage story term.
What he said. And I told you at the beginning that we were coming after these two Porsches on here. You know he loves the Porsches. I didn't think that getting to the GT3 RS was realistic. That car, just given the overall value in it, is going to be very hard to dethrone. But the yellow turbo was my goal, and I think that we beat it.
So that's the only time you're going to beat a 911 turbo with anything that you own, do racing-wise. I mean, you might be able to buy another one of these cars and do it, but as far as the race season, you know, the old 911 turbo is getting put together as we speak.
So moving on, we're just going to skip past that real quickly. I'm going to let Carrington do the honors of filling out the numbers on this, and then we're going into the office to see where she sits in that big baller division. The moment of truth. He's pulling it down, so you know it's moving. Bronze medal for the Porsche with the Audi. Sliding right in there, really at a healthy spot, kind of in between the two. But again, this is an absolutely massive number to try to take down. The argument could be made that this could maybe even drop another 5%, which would put it pretty close to that number, simply because of that dead inventory and how long we are going to have the parts from this car.
I'm always happy to make money, but I do need to buy another Porsche because I need to knock that off there. I guess technically it will be 2 more Porsches. So I suppose you guys can expect to see one of those coming up pretty soon. Not happy about an Audi beating a Porsche in any way, shape, or form.
Well, here at Race Motive in about 3 weeks, there will be an Audi beating his Porsche, because I will most likely be piloting the R8, and really, no matter, you know, what Carrington likes to talk, I don't think the Porsche is taking out that car. But I'll give you a chance to rebuttal. Go ahead.
I own part of that Audi. It's fine. My Audi can beat my Porsche.
I think technically Carrington owns the majority stake in that Audi, so there is an argument to be made with what he just said. Let us know down in the comments, though, what you guys think about the big baller division. Do you like seeing these kind of, you know, supercars and, you know, the numbers that are involved with them, or do you like the more run-of-the-mill, more easily obtainable by people of average means like you and I? Carrington just said there's going to be more Porsches coming up. He feels the need to redeem himself. That could be some high-end ones, or maybe if you guys want, we could do something pretty simple like a Cayman S, something, again, a little bit more run-of-the-mill. So one way or another, let us know what you guys think about the results here, and we'll be back very, very soon with another salvage story of some sort, as well as plenty of other fun content. Final remarks?
Adios. Oh, that's Fernando's line.
That is Fernando's line. I think what he meant to say is Nissan Jukes for the win.